Hey everyone, thanks for stopping back by the Live with Audacity podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Stewart, and you're listening to episode number 34. Today's episode is such a good time because I get to have this really cool guy on that I actually met on LinkedIn. I know, your brain immediately went to something inappropriate because LinkedIn is a wild place. But honestly, Jesse has never been anything but a super perfect gentleman, and we connected over each of us having a podcast. Jesse is the brilliant mind behind 46 and 2 Wealth Partners, a la Tool, and he is also the host of the Jesse T Show on YouTube and anywhere you can get podcasts. But he's here today to tell us how this journey all came to be, his struggles with drug addiction, the loss of his precious daughter, and how he is super intentional about how he uses his time now so that he can serve the people he most aligns with. Say it with me, everyone. Let's dive in. You're listening to the Live with Audacity podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Stewart. Audacity is defined by Merriam-Webster as intrepid boldness or disregard for normal constraints. And that's exactly what we have here. The Live with Audacity podcast is aimed at giving you the courage to explore your someday dreams, do things your way, and start making things happen in your life right now. I'm a mama to 4 kiddos ranging from college student to kindergartner, wife to a high school football and track coach, and a multi-passionate entrepreneur. Together with my guests, we're going to teach you how to live with audacity and intentionality, discover and utilize your unique skills and talents, and step into who you are meant to be in order to make your someday dreams a reality. Are you ready? Here we go. Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning back into the Live with Audacity podcast. I'm so excited. I know I say that every single week. I got to come up with a new phrase, but I'm so excited about today's episode because I have the amazing Jesse Tudisco on. He is the mind behind the Jesse T Show. Jesse, welcome to the podcast.
It's amazing to connect with you on the podcast. Melissa, thank you so much for having me. Thank you to your listeners and your audience. And I'm excited to jump on and have a great conversation with you.
I am so excited about you being here because we actually hooked up over LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago. And to be honest, that doesn't happen to me a lot, that I get to connect with someone and really enjoy getting to know them. So I was really excited about having you on the podcast because I love your story. So tell us a little bit about who you are and kind of how you got into podcasting and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So just for some context, so people can understand the narrative, and I'll lead with life has taught me how to be extremely grateful through some pretty tremendous events, both positive and tragic. And so just kind of overall arcing, if that's a word, theme or archetype of who I am would be, just growing up and learning the value of what I call today, it's what I learned. There's a Stoic philosophy called memento mori, and that just means know that you're mortal, know that you'll die, but let that motivation, that knowledge motivate you to live every day like that's your last. And so it's not supposed to be negative. It's not supposed to be a headwind. It's supposed to be a tailwind. And I've learned this through life. And so growing up, didn't know it until I had the words to put to it, but I was an entrepreneur at heart. And so grew up in the city of Boston, a town called East Boston, and grew up with little to no means. We didn't have money. And so I think that was part of my creation of this entrepreneurial hustle, outside of just kind of having a knack for it too, and a love for people and learning from people. And so when I was younger, I would buy, sell, trade comic books, baseball cards, shovel snow for money. And kind of a funnier story, when we were little, we'd run over to Logan Airport, which is 2 train stops down from where we lived in Orient Heights. 2 stops down to Airport train station. We'd get out and go to the terminals. And for people that are listening to this, there's these little things called smart carts. That may be the brand, but basically they're little luggage carriers. And people used to use them before luggage was cool. Like luggage, actually, you can move it around really easily. And so these little carts, if you took them, you could return them back to the stall and get a quarterback. And we
Oh
learned
my
this
gosh, I
somehow.
love those things.
Yeah, yeah. Have you actually seen these before? Have you actually ever used one?
Dude, when we were kids and we traveled all the time, my mom worked for the airlines, and we used to ride on them all the time through the airport. They were so much fun. But anyway,
Yeah, no, it's and that's actually I've put this into my book that I'm writing, but like I use the term like they were strewn all over the terminals, like they were left all over the place because people would use them, they would discard them, and then what happens? We found out somewhere along the lines that when you return one, you'd get a quarter came out, and this is back in the I'm 38, so 20 something 25 30 years ago, probably it was a long
yeah.
time ago, right? And so the quarter, you do it a few times. We got our fortunes of $5 to $10, and it was fun because it was the thrill of the chase, because airport security or terminal type like employees would like chase us around and like tell us not to do it. And so like there was kind of that thrill of excitement, but also learning how to make money. And we'd go spend it back on candy, comics, and like baseball cards, like the important stuff, right?
You're
And
right, right,
so
right.
that entrepreneurial dream, vision, ability was kind of innate, kind of worked on, kind of built, but it also was coupled with like a really crazy journey. And so, through my lifetime, I've scaled a few companies, and I'm on, my fourth company now. But through that time, growing up in Boston, I grew up, my parents were never married. My dad was a 40-year heroin addict, and that had all these issues that came with that. My dad was a hometown hero at one point, and then he kind of threw it all away. So I went to the same high school that he did, and actually some of the coaches and teachers were his buddies growing up, so they used to give me a lot of crap and like talk smack, and like it was just like this
Oh
shadow that I
man.
was always cast over me. And it was interesting because through my entrepreneurial ventures and having that role model, at one point I actually started selling drugs myself. And so I ended up starting off with marijuana, which wasn't, a big deal, I guess now because it's legal, right? But back then it was still illegal. And,
Yeah.
and and my entrepreneurial trait was I hired people to do it for me. And so like people would go, and my mentor actually calls this kind of Machiavellian, which is not a good term to be called. Like it just basically like you're putting other people in like danger. And then like I was having people go out and would sell, and basically they would keep their weed, or they would, make some money. And so I just was doing this, putting myself through a community college that I was going to, and still working like on the side. And then eventually, and you can let me know if this is like too much for your listeners or whatever,
No,
but
I love
I
it.
ended up I ended up moving into something a lot more, I guess, insidious or devious, because a new product came on the market in the early 2000s, and it still is called OxyContin. And basically what that is, it's like heroin in a pill. And so because the money was much bigger, because it was, for a poor kid that grew up without anything, that had this entrepreneurial hustle, like I was looking at my friends that weren't working, that were going out, partying, clubbing, that were buying cars and motorcycles and all this stuff. I wanted some of that too, and I didn't have like the best role models. And so I kind of fell into a trap, or put myself into a trap, where I started selling it, and eventually making money and not doing the right thing. I actually started partaking in that, and then eventually it turned into a 2-year drug addiction. And
Oh
so
wow.
a really weird way, but I got to know my father like better than I ever could have, because I went through that and I understood where he was coming from after his addiction for 40 years. And the good news about all this is my dad kicked his addiction with the last 12 years before he passed away. He became an amazing dad, became an amazing grandfather to my 2 sons. And for me, the way that I broke my addiction was I actually enlisted in the military. And so my mom was Army veteran. My grandfather was Army veteran, World War II. My mom being Vietnam. And I had a
Oh
lot of other
wow.
military influence in my life. Yeah. And I used it as a means for escape, but it saved my life. And so just kind of jumping through like some iterations after the military was over, when I went back to Boston, I realized that a lot of things were the same or worse. Like it's very, very bad up there for like drug addiction. Like there's a lot of people that are on drugs, selling drugs, and I needed to get out of that environment. And so when I was up there, I had a sister living in Georgia where I live today. And she said, listen, I know that you're up there and it's a tough situation. Come down for the summer, and you'll be able to kind of get a different perspective. And so I moved down in the spring, almost summer of 2006. Haven't, I did my last, actually at that point I was using heroin. And the last time I ever did heroin was the bus ride down from Boston. It was a 30-hour Greyhound bus ride. And it
Oh.
was terrible because I'm 6'1" and I was trying to fall asleep in the seat, and like I would kick the seat in front of me, which had like a metal bar, so I came down all banged up. But I got down to Georgia and I reset my life, and I was able to recalibrate and get away from that issue, which completely saved my life. And so, kind of fast forward through the years,
Hold
and
on,
here's kind
real
of what.
quick.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have a super serious question.
yeah. Let's do it. Yeah.
um, do you think that coming to Georgia, is it just the support system that you had in Georgia, or was it warmth and sunshine? Like, what was it that made you go, "Ugh, I just, this is, I really want to be done with this forever"?
Yeah, for me, it was like never something that, for the longest time, my mother did a great job being a single mom of two kids. She did a great job of like guarding me and shielding me from that life. And so it was never in my DNA until I was exposed to that life pretty heavily to like be, doing those things, selling drugs, doing drugs, being in that lifestyle. So I think the big part was I grew up a good kid. I was playing sports and, chasing girls and having fun, just being a good kid. And like, it was never I never grew up like wanting to scam people or like screw people over, and so I kind of fell into this like trap because of scarcity, because of maybe seeing my dad go through this stuff, like all these issues, right, all these emotional traumas, all these things I was probably soothing with the medicine, so to speak, right. And
Right.
so because of that, like I think foundation of being a good person and not wanting to go down this path, that was one thing. And then the other thing was practicality. It was removing myself specifically from this situation, from this toxic environment, and completely getting away from it, like putting myself in a place where I didn't know anyone who to call for whatever I needed. Like I could just kind of start over. And the way I attribute this, and I always tell this in my story because I tell this story a lot through like speaking or keynoting and things like this, it is the way I could describe it is when I was going through my 2-year addiction, I would have dreams of a better life. I would have dreams of not being a drug addict, and I would wake up back to my hell, so to speak, every day. And then the first few months when I moved to Georgia and I, kicked the drugs, stopped doing drugs, I would have nightmares of being a junkie again and like living that life. And then I'd wake up
Oh,
to my dream.
wow.
So it's like this crazy paradigm shift and like this crazy play from like yin to yang, polar, like, just this dynamic that, so kind of just to say the answer was the foundation, I think at one point was strong, and what I was meant to do, I was called to do something more than that. And then removing myself from the situation definitely saved my life.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So after that, what'd you go? What'd you do? Where'd you go?
Yeah, so in 2006, I actually met my wife. Now that we've been together for 13 years, and um, I found sales. And so my first sales job was outside sales, door to door, commission, cold calling, and we were selling like coupons essentially. We were selling, like, if you could think of Groupon, if people who are listening to this know what Groupon is, basically you get discounted services to fun and entertainment type places. That's what myself and then eventually my company would sell door to door to businesses. And so um, I found a career, I found a purpose, I found something I was really good at, and I built a company from it. And so I found purpose through that. And so that really helped shape my, up until what I do today. And again, that entrepreneurial spirit, that entrepreneurial hustle, I was able to really double down on that because I had to learn how to sell. I had to learn how to train other people how to sell. And then I had to learn how to build a business around it. And in that process, I found out, how to deal with people, how to communicate, how to read buying signs, how to overcome objections, how to have a good work ethic, how to basically kind of reset from the demons that I had just before this iteration. And so that turned into a almost 4-year career of running a business at a successful level. And the issue back then, which was kind of the issue growing up, was I had no money management skills. And so I was like blowing all this money that I was making, buying things I
Right.
didn't need, trying to impress people that I shouldn't have been impressing.
Mhm.
And, that has also been the narrative along up until now, present day, which is, we'll talk about in my wealth management business. But we had a big issue, a big tragic loss, which kind of plays into my belief system today, which is, memento mori, and live your life today because you never know when you're going to lose it. And so my wife and I, we were pregnant, and as they say here in the South, living in Georgia, we were living in sin. We weren't married, and so we were dating, we were having fun. We got pregnant, and then we're like, oh shit, life got real. And
Yeah.
so we ended up having a healthy pregnancy. And when it came to labor and delivery, we were in a 40-hour labor and delivery, but then our daughter Alana Marie came out injured at delivery. And what that meant was, she wasn't stillborn, but she needed to be put on life support immediately. And so the next 7 days were completely surreal. We lived in the NICU, which is the neonatal intensive care unit for children that have issues coming out from pregnancy. And so, we're expecting to have this beautiful bouncing baby girl, and then immediately life stops, becomes a living hell. And now we're like facing the death of our daughter. And so at the 7th day, it was kind of given up to us to make the decision if we wanted to like let our daughter live on life support for the rest of her life with no signs of kind of coming off of that, or to let her go. And so we made the decision, as hard as it was, to let her go and let her go home. And, for those that are faith-based people or that believe in God, whether that's heaven, whether that's whatever, right? And so we decided to let her go on. And so what that looked like was when they removed her, from the machines, they wanted to make sure that we held her before, like, because we hadn't had a chance to hold her. And
Oh my God.
the nurses were amazing in the NICU. They were angels. And that actually plays into something we do today with our nonprofit. But so it felt like forever. And my wife, she thinks it was like 5 minutes. I felt like it was 15, but you don't know. It's years ago. And so she fought, she was gasping. And then eventually she didn't have any life left. And so that was very surreal. And so what that looked like, we went to back to business. Like we went back to trying to run the company. We went back to trying to lead a sales team and develop partnerships and bring product to the market for, giant clients like the Charlotte Bobcats or Tire Kingdom, which is like an oil change company that's huge, and all these companies. And the biggest issue for me was I was, after, probably 3 months, I was in a depression, and
Right.
I didn't even want to get out of bed in the morning, let alone lead a team of 35 employees to go out there and have to be motivated to eat a ton of rejection in the outside sales world.
Right.
So talk about imposter syndrome. And like imposter syndrome is a huge play on words in society and the consciousness of society these days, where people are like, sometimes you're going to feel like you have imposter syndrome. I definitely had it. Like I felt like a fraud. Like, how could I motivate these people if I can't even get myself out of bed?
Right.
Yep. So, after a while, we decided that we were going to shut the company down because we just had no more love for it. It had changed for us, and our views had changed. And honestly, we were putting in anywhere from 80 to 100 hours a week at some points. And for us, my wife and I, we were deciding, hey, she's from Georgia. I had moved down from Boston to Georgia, lived here for a few months before we moved to North Carolina, where we opened our company. Let's get back to Georgia, where she's from, put her back in her support system around her family, because she has a huge network of family and that are very close and supportive here. That would be a huge help. And let's go work part-time, because we were working 80 to 100 hours a week. Part-time meant 40 to 50 hours a week working for somebody else, without the stress, without the, of running a business. And so that's what we did. And we moved back to Georgia in around 2010.
Okay, so your wife worked with you at your company?
It was interesting because my wife was actually my boss at one point.
Oh,
Yeah. But she was,
I see.
right. She was the manager. She had her own franchise location of this company, and she brought me in to do sales, and like just through relationship and through business partnership, we started dating, and that's where it went from there.
That's cool. Okay, and so how did she? I mean, obviously, I know that you were really depressed and all of. How did she handle the loss of her daughter? And like, obviously, you guys moved back to Georgia so that she would have a bigger support system. But how did she like how did she handle that?
The best that she could. I mean, there's no playbook.
Of
Initially, there
course.
wasn't, and there was no track to follow, and so it was a matter of leveraging relationships for her, plugging it into a support system, and then we did find a path. And so the path became counseling. It became a support system called Kindermorn, which they may be nationwide, but I know they're definitely in Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was for people that have lost children of any age. And so we started attending events there and connecting with a network and some other people that have been through the same thing. And so we started building the support system, and really we were getting training for we'll talk about this in a little bit, but the nonprofit that we have that serves people in that capacity as well. And so that became a catharsis over the years in giving back to people.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only imagine that is one of the biggest things that helps you. obviously you never get over it, but helps you handle and deal with your pain is being
For
able to
sure.
help other people through theirs. So
Yep.
that's huge.
Yeah.
So
It
you
gives you
guys,
a safe place. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I mean, especially too when you can be around people that know what you're going through and you can share in that. And, um, I always use the word commiserate. I don't really love the word, but that's what it is. Um, but you can be around people that really understand what you've been through, and you can cling to each other and support each other through similar instances. I
For
mean,
sure.
that's what we're here to do, right? Is to be there for each other and love each other. So I think that's really cool. What happened after you guys moved to Georgia?
Yeah, so we get back into working for other people in the corporate world. She got into the world of payroll sales, which she's been in since, and I got into finance, which I've been in since. The need to understand the wisdom of wealth, the need to have more wealth, drove me, and those are kind of like earthly desires, and also maybe egotistical drives, but they've changed over the years. But it was like I didn't know how to make money. I wanted to make money. This essentially was like the deal, and I was making money through my company, but I wasn't keeping any of it. And that's the trick. Like there's a lot of people that make $1 million, but if you spend a million in one, what's the point, right? And
Right.
so,
Yeah.
and so, you know, when we got back to Georgia, we started over. We tapped into our network that existed. We built in some infrastructure with new careers, and we started over. And that journey for her, she stayed in the payroll world through different iterations, from sales to management to now she's a director of training and development for a company. And for me, I started working at a bank. And the reason why was because for a few months when we came back here, I was doing payroll sales too. And I didn't love it. I wasn't happy with it. It wasn't my bread and butter. But we had a relationship with a local bank where it was like a referral partnership. So we'd meet with our referral partners once every like 4 to 6 weeks, whatever it was. And one of the banks that was here at the time was RBC Bank, Royal Bank of Canada. They had a US footprint. They liked what they saw. Like they liked how I was able to communicate. They liked how I was able to bring value and like bring clients to the table for them. From having mutual clients from payroll and from banking, because the two go hand in hand. And they
Right.
offered me a job, and they said, listen, we know you don't have any banking experience, but you have sales experience, you have leadership experience, and you have all these other things. It would port over nicely, because really what it comes down to when you're a retail banker, branch manager, or business banker, you're in sales. You're selling a product or service. You're trying to help people. And for me, I was like, this is like a step up. Like I can kind of build my career. I can build a new network, and I can learn about finance. And so through those iterations from 2011 till present day, I've been in finance, and just kind of some other things along the way. We lost another miscarriage. And then for our third pregnancy, we had our son Grayson, who's 5.5. And then we had our fourth pregnancy, who's William, who's 3.5. And so we've been able to
Awesome.
kind of go through that side of things and experience the better part of that. And so um, through those processes and things, a few things are existing today. And so my company that I run is an entrepreneurial financial planning company, basically meaning that no one else tells me what to do, which is awesome. And it's an investment advice company. I'm a fee-only investment advisor. And for those that are listening, or those who want to know what that is, in the world of financial planning, there's 400,000 financial planners that are registered as such in different capacities in the United States. So there's a lot. And out of those 400,000, 95% of them are not a true fiduciary. And fiduciary is a funny word. It just says by law, a fiduciary has to do what's in your best interest and put your interest ahead of my interest in terms of like making money. And it's a beautiful handshake, because in the world of financial planning, there's always a question of, is this better for the financial planner, or is this better for the client?
Right.
And it's been an amazing way to run a business, because I remove that conflict of interest. And in the way that I do that is being a fee only advisor. I don't accept commissions, and I don't sell products and services. I walk people through seasons of life. I show them how to live their best life, how to keep more of their money, how to make more money, and how to sometimes, depending on if they want to, stop trading time for money. So business owners, entrepreneurs, families, executives, they work with me because they need more clarity. They're feeling stressed or overwhelmed with their financial plans, and I can do the portfolio management and give them ongoing financial advice so that they can walk through life happy.
I love that. And, I actually took Dave Ramsey's class several years ago. And that was one thing that he said is when you're looking for someone to help you manage your finances and your portfolio and your investments and things like that, look for this. It's an RIA, right? Is that what it's called?
Look at you doing
ARIA?
your homework. Absolutely. Yeah. Most
Ah!
people don't know that term. Registered investment advisory. Yes, exactly what that is.
I feel so smart right now.
You are so smart.
um yeah, okay, so I love that that's exactly how you decided to do it. Um how
Through the
does
years
that
though, because I had done it as like a state farm agent where I had some securities licenses, insurance licenses, wasn't a fan of that. And then I went on my own for about 2.5 years as a broker where I wasn't in the capacity, but I was always building towards this capacity. So I saw that side of the business and I didn't love it. And that's what made me double down on this. And just to touch base real quick on Dave Ramsey, we used him and his system personally. And so we've used the envelope system. We've used the debt snowball. We paid ourselves out of debt in 8 months. We took
wow.
$52,000 worth of debt. We did not, and paid it off. We didn't have to get additional jobs. We didn't have to sell stuff on Craigslist or have yard sales, which are, we did anyway, just like just to kind of get some extra money, but we didn't have to do those things. But it taught us practicality. It taught us, how to be stringent for a little while for a long-term gain. So 8 months, we paid off $52,000 in debt, and we also paid for a really badass wedding and honeymoon in cash, which was really cool.
Heck yeah, that's so cool. Okay, I have a
Yeah,
question. So when if someone were to want to get out of debt and not like obviously they know the steps but they're not so great at like sticking to them and having self-discipline, is that something that you can help with where you say, "Okay, we have all your money over here and here's your spending money. You just get this and we do everything else and we take care of paying all the bills and all that stuff. And here's your spending money. You just get to do this." Because I can make all the plans in the whole wide world. But if my husband says, "Hey, you want to go out to eat?" I'm like, "Yes, I do. Yes, I do."
yep,
So, is that a service that you guys offer at all where, you can kind of give your client just like some spending money and say, "Here's your spending money, but we're going to handle everything else"? Does anybody do that?
absolutely. Yeah, we're experts in like cash flow management, and what that means is just people keeping more of their money, making more of their money, and really just giving them oxygen to be able to breathe. And the thing about how I operate as a investment advisor and an entrepreneur is I understand the needs of real life, and it goes back to living your life well today. Now, you have to be practical. You can't go out there and buy a BMW every day or go get like the new Coach bag or whatever it is that you're in the moment emotions may want you to do. But you do need to, I'm actually, it's interesting you asked about this because I'm talking about this in my book that I'm writing right now, about 30 pages into this book, and it's talking about the mindset needed and the behavioral finance that goes into making decisions when purchasing things. And if you understand these things and know them, people before they make a decision moving forward will have the right idea to say, hey, is this really something that I've worked for, something that I want, or like, something I want to blow my money on, or do I want to hold out for something else, or like put it to a different use? And it may be one or the other. Maybe yes, you've earned it, yes, you want it, go ahead. And as long as your possessions or your items that you deem important or valuable are bringing you joy, I'm all for it. It's when someone goes and buys something and has instant regret and they're like, man, I wish I didn't, they had buyer's remorse. Like
Right.
that's where the issue is. So it's the teaching. So we do a lot of coaching and mentoring on the financial planning side around mindset and around how to look at things a little bit differently. But yeah, the practicality of we can help people, put together a plan, manage that plan, quarterback it for them. And as long as they're willing, just like anything else, you could take someone to the gym, but if they're not going to put in the reps, they're not going to get fit. Right.
Right.
So it's the same thing on my end. If someone wants to become wealthy, we can show them how to do it. Someone wants to keep more of their cash. Yes. It's just going to take a little bit of work on their end.
Yeah, I love that. Man. Okay, cool. Um okay, so tell me a little bit about your charity that you and your wife started after your daughter passed.
Yeah. So through all the counseling and coaching and mentoring we received, we've always been in a position very lucky enough to kind of be servant leaders ourselves and kind of give back, whatever we can. And so through the years of going through those first two losses with Alana, and then our second one we called Nugget. We didn't have a name for Nugget, so just Nugget.
I
And
love
then,
that. So cute.
yeah, before we got to Grayson and William, we put together a nonprofit here in Georgia, 501c3. We named it Alana's Angels,
Mm.
in honor of our daughter. And initially, it started off as a balloon release, like a way to honor and remember the life of our daughter, because those 7 days meant so much to us and so many other people. And it brought people together and it made some differences. And so her little life, we didn't want to forget. And so it was a way for us to remember. And, it grew into this nonprofit where people that, lose, a miscarriage all the way up to the death of an adult child. Those are all horrible experiences in themselves, but there is a place for community. There is a place for healing. And so we have support services and contacts in place that can help people through those seasons of life. And so that does exist. We haven't, been pushing it as hard as we will, just because with family and careers and businesses, it's kind of been somewhat on the shelf. I don't want to say it's completely on the shelf, but it's there, it exists, and there is a community. It's just we haven't put into it over the last probably year or two what we will put into it coming up. So yeah, it helps people through local contacts wherever they may be. There's people that we know throughout the country and even around the world that can help them, counselors, support services, and even events that we put on, that we have done throughout the time that we've had it. So
Yeah, love that. And I think I think it's really cool that your charity focuses on the death of children, whether it's, miscarriage or adult children. Losing a child, I've never had to go through that, so I can't imagine that, but I know lots of people that have, and I just can't even imagine the pain that someone would have to go through to deal with that. And so I think a lot of times a misconception is that once your kids are adults, like, it's not as hard. Um, and maybe that's true because they've gotten to live more life or whatever, but the law of the world should be that parents don't ever have to, um, you know, have their children pass before them.
outlive their children. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And so I love that you focus on the whole scheme of things from beginning to end, no matter the age of the child. And I think that's so valuable and so what's the word I'm looking for? Valuable is the best word I can come up with, because like I said, parents, when your kids are older and or your kids are even adults, like, it's just then it just kind of seems like it's just death, right? And
Right.
it doesn't feel like it's as important to people, because they're not children or they're not babies anymore. And I just seriously can't even imagine having to be that parent. So I love that you are available for them too. What made you guys decide that that was important?
Because it was cathartic for us, and it was something where we could keep her memory burning alive bright. Like, so my youngest son William, he turned 3 in October. My oldest son Grayson, he'll be 6 in July. So they're 2 years and some change apart. And even at their young ages, because of things like doing a balloon release every year on her birthday and celebrating her birthday. And every time we go to Charlotte, where our business was, and I have family over there, one of my sisters lives over there with my brother-in-law and nephew. We go there pretty often, especially for holidays and things. Her grave is over there. And so we go, and the kids are really big on cleaning off her grave if we need to, and putting on, the, like, for the holidays, we'll dress it up with different, like, seasonal stuff. Like if it's Christmas, we'll put Christmas kind of knickknacks or flowers on the grave, the little, like, stone thing, the little
Hmm.
headstone. And so it's like having them involved in that and keeping them in the loop. A lot of times, like, they'll just come up and talk about their sister in heaven, like, oh, my sister in heaven. It's like the coolest thing in the world. So I think keeping her memory
Oh,
alive
that's so sweet.
has been huge. And
Yeah.
how we do that. And there was actually something that kind of helped us through the first part of this years ago when this happened, 2008, March 2008, when we lost her. It was a poem called Pennies in Heaven, or Pennies from Heaven. And anytime we translated that to like the memory of her keeping alive. First started off with anytime we found a penny, nickel, quarter, or dime on the ground, it was her thinking about us, which was really cool. And it was a way to say that she was like communicating with us from beyond, right? And so that was really kind of the inception of like keeping her memory alive. And then from there it was the getting the boys really into knowing their sister as best as they could and knowing they have a sister that's their angel.
I love that so much. I actually have a girlfriend that she lost her daughter. She was about 5 months old. She lost her daughter to SIDS, and she always posts pennies that she's found, or people,
Yep.
that's their thing now too. And anytime that even a friend of theirs finds a penny, they'll send her a picture and say, "Hey, I know Aubrey's thinking about us," and so yeah, that's it's a really valuable way to be able to say, to feel that person, that spirit with you, because they're never gone, right? Like, they're not
Right.
here in a physical body, but we get to talk to them, and they're around, and I think that's so cool, and I love that.
Yeah, it's been a great experience. It's really taught me gratitude, and it goes back to the value of life and the value of a moment. So that's all these things that may look like negatives or tragedies have really taught me the beauty of life.
Yeah, and it really is a testament to the idea that life is not happening to you, it's happening for you, and every
Yep.
thing that we have to unfortunately go through a lot of times really ends up coming full circle and building us to be the best human that we can be and the best person that we can be, and serve others, and be able to share our message and our lessons with other people, so that maybe things aren't so hard for them too.
Yep.
um,
Exactly.
yeah, I love the idea behind the charity. I just think it's so great. um, what are you working on now, or where's your business headed?
Yeah. So a couple things. Business is heading in a great direction. We've been growing and scaling year over year, and just been able to really serve people a lot better through the RIA, as you mentioned, the Registered Investment Advisory, and help people really meaningfully, which has been great. The other thing that I'm working on, kind of another place where we connected, was my podcast, which is called The Jesse T Show, and you mentioned that earlier. Thank you so much. The Jesse T Show is a podcast where it takes people like you that are amazing and entrepreneurs, thought leaders, creators, or athletes, and we have them come on the show. It's a video and audio, and it's a place where these folks can talk about their journey, what they've overcome, what they've done, what they've achieved. Similar stories to mine, where they've had to overcome some demons to be able to get to a great spot in life. And so they'll basically share these ideas with people that are growth minded, that are business minded, looking to level up in their relationships, their health and wellness, their fitness, which is mental fitness, emotional fitness, spiritual. There's all different people. Basically, if you've ever seen like a Tim Ferriss show or a Tom Billy or even Joe Rogan, like people that I'm interested in for my own like endeavors that I think have a great story, I want to just share that with the world. And it's been an amazing ride to meet amazing people, including yourself and other people that have opened doors, not only for the like relationships, but also coming back to the business. It's turned into an amazing, not by design, but an amazing marketing part, branding part for my business, which has been really cool. So the Jesse T Show has been another thing I'm working on. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I love the idea behind the Jesse T Show, because that's kind of where mine is headed. Mine really started out with wanting to understand and get, literally every person on the planet has their own story, and I
Yep.
love getting to hear people's stories and how they've pushed through and pursued their dreams, and persevered. So that's kind of how mine came about too. I have never had an athlete on my show yet, and I just realized that I need to do that. I think that would be really cool.
I can make some introductions for you. I know a few, but yeah, it's the parallel between all those people is they're overcoming something, they're working on something, they're improving, they're trying to leave the world a little bit of a better place through what they're doing, and it's just this nice polarity between stories. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's really awesome that there's so many of us now realizing that, our true mission in life is to leave the world better than we found it. As you're growing
Yep.
up as a kid and you're watching Oprah and whatnot, you're like, cool, but how do I do that? Do you have any suggestions for people that maybe don't really know how they can do that yet, of how they can kind of find their thing?
Yeah, so there's a lot because I'm big into this personally, and so I'll give you a couple ideas here. So, any thought leaders, anybody that inspires you, there's a lot of great people out there that have inspired me on different levels. From, Simon Sinek and his Start with why changed my life. Like, it's cool with what you do and how you do it, but it's the most important on why you do what you do. And just
Mhm.
speaking and thinking in those terms from a personal and business standpoint has changed my life. There's other people out there that are practical, that believe in hustle or work ethic, like Gary Vee. And like, there's just so many people on social media or YouTube University that you could plug into, and you could literally type in how to XYZ and find someone. And as long as you find someone that you resonate with, find someone that has done something at a high level that you could take information from and apply it to your life and your game. Other things are audiobooks. I'm big into all different kinds of audiobooks. So depending on what you're into, if it's business, health and wellness, fitness, relationships, whatever it is, it could be very specific, like how to build this widget or how to do this. There's podcasts and audiobooks out there for that. That's been really, really huge for me. And then I'm on an exploration and a seeking journey myself, and I've actually just been introduced to plant medicines. And so
Ah,
for people that are
I'm s
listening,
I'm
yeah,
so glad you're bringing
yeah,
this up.
yeah. So have you had experience with them before?
I haven't actually, and I have an invitation from actually my business coach to go do it. She
Do it.
only lives a few hours from me. Well, my husband is he's kind of freaked out. She actually is really into NLP, and she wants to
Yep.
do past life regression with me and hypnotize me. And he's like, "You're going to let someone hypnotize you over the internet? What if she screws you up?" And he's
Do it.
just being really weird about it. And I'm on the same self discovery and exploration thing as you. And I actually said that I really want to dive into all these different aspects and different things and really document my journey about it so that we
Oh
can
yeah.
teach other people that it doesn't just have to be listening to a podcast or listening to an audiobook, but there are lots and lots and lots of things that you can do and try. And you got to find the right thing that works for you, just like a career. You got to find the right thing that jives with you and that you align the most with. I think that's true in every aspect of our life. You got to find the right workout that makes you want to get up and do it every day. So I'm so glad that you brought that up. So tell us, have you done it?
Yeah, so this is where my journey's been. So, and you're absolutely right. It's like you can do these. You can do it through meditation. You could do it through breath work. You can do it through yoga. You can do it through all these different aspects. But for me, I was really um, turned on to this idea. There's a few thought leaders in this space. There's a guy named Aubrey Marcus who runs a company down in Austin, Texas called On It. It's a human optimization company. They do a lot through fitness, but they do so much stuff on the spiritual side and emotional side. And even Joe Rogan's big into this too. He's actually one of Aubrey's partners in that business. But there's this huge social and spiritual awakening that's happening right now in the world. And it's something that's been going on through the generations, but it's really kind of like lifting fast right now. And so
Yes.
if you feel called to any of these things, you'll know it. And I've felt called to exploration of the mind and the soul, and for me, my spiritual journey. And so what I've done, actually just yesterday, so get excited. I booked a trip down to Peru, and it's going to be a 9-day trip with a bunch of other. And this is kind of a little different because you can get what you want from these events, but this is kind of, there's some business minded leader type guys that I'm going with. But it is going to be a few different plant ceremonies. One is going to be with San Pedro, which is a cactus, and it is going to be more of like an earthy kind of thing. It brings you into your heart more, so you can lead with your heart and all these different things, and it gets you grounded to the earth and like feeling about that. And then also it's the masculine. But then the flip side, and the side that I was kind of really excited about, because I'm really kind of out there when it comes to exploration, is the ayahuasca. And so ayahuasca, for those that don't know, is mother. It's the maternal. It's the spiritual, and it's leaving your body. So with the masculine grounding, the earthy, the heart, this one is more the spiritual, leaving your body, the mother. And it's like having those experiences, what they do is they really they strip ego away from you. Whether you think you're someone who's not very egotistical, we all have ego. It's just something that's in our
Yep.
psyche, and how the ego shows up in the things that we do every day is really interesting. And so there's all these thought leaders from Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud, all this. You can get really deep into this stuff, but
Yeah.
there's so much stuff that I've seen in my life that I know that there's a lot of truth to what these things can do and what I've seen them do for people, that it's called me for a long time, and I finally bit the bullet and I said, you know what, I'm doing it. So May 2nd through 10th, I'll be in Peru this year doing my first round of plant ceremonies.
That's so wild. And have you done psilocybin or
No,
shrooms?
actually, let me take that back. So I've tried, I'll call it mushrooms. I've tried mushrooms twice. I did it once when I was a kid in Boston. I literally just ate some mushrooms and I felt like nothing happened. And then
Wow,
again, I
really?
tried. Yeah, yeah, it was really weird. Like I felt like I'm all about like wanting the visions. Like I want to like see things. And I didn't see anything, and I was kind of like, eh. And I tried it again years later, and the same thing. And it was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm just not doing enough, or if I'm not if I'm not surrendering, like I'm not like fully like ready for this. But yeah, I've tried it twice. But here's the thing: I know that I might be just need a little bit more structure and a little bit more guidance on it. But I absolutely think that it's a huge tool. I know people, because I'm really big in this world, so I know people that even like microdose it and they do like 0.00, like a little bit,
Yeah.
and like they can operate much differently in their day to day life. And there's actually all these studies that are going on, like places in California, like MAPS and some other
Yep.
places, that a lot of these psychedelics are actually helping with depression and PTSD. And
Anxiety.
how cool is it? How cool is it to know that these things that are natural, that were given to us as gifts and tools, have the wisdom to be able to show us how to get around these things, and we can actually maybe one day get away from like big pharma and like things that actually hurt us. So I'm really excited about it.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally agree. And honestly, growing up, I actually was talking to my my friend about this yesterday. She's out of our relationship. I've always been the very straight laced, uh, just just straight laced is the best probable way I could put it. And she's been very into different things and trying things and very more open minded than I have. And it's funny, I was talking to her yesterday and I was like, I feel like, I'm expanding my mind and I'm opening my mind to different things. And I think it's really cool that, there are all these different options and new things that you can, and they're not even new. It's just that
No, thousands of years. Yeah.
right? We're harnessing it and realizing that if you do it in the right environment and you do it with the right people and you do it with the right intention, a lot of times that you can really get something great out of it. And I think that is the missing piece for most people. Obviously I wouldn't suggest just, going out to your field and picking out some mushrooms and
Can
hoping
I
for
tell
the
you something
best.
crazy? I'm getting chills right now because number one, we're like, there's been this huge um, shift in my life because I'm like exploring into these avenues and worlds. You start meeting people and like having like this connection, like these things just show up in your life, and it's incredible from that standpoint. But also, you know, there's so much like wisdom in these plant medicines and ceremonies, and if you feel called to it, there's a reason for it. And I feel, and there's two things I would say. The first one is there's tons of people out there, like you said, that are doing it the right way. There's this culture of people that just kind of want to do it just to do it, but there's people that are like want to do the work because it's hard work too. There's going to be hard physical work, hard mental work, hard emotional work, hard spiritual work. So like you're going to get information in the form of downloads from these ceremonies, but then you have to go integrate it, and it could be a lifelong
Mhm.
integration. So people that are looking at it as like, hey, let's just go see some visions and have some fun. That's part of it, but like the bigger part is what you receive can change you, and you have to put that into your life and make that work. And so to do that, I would say, um, there's people out there like Aubrey Marcus, Kyle Kingsbury, Joe Rogan. Like, go ahead and there's a book called DMT, The Spirit Molecule, I think is what it's called. Like, go do your research, go see if it speaks to you, and if it does, then there's ways to find out how to go do these things. There's retreats, there's people that take people on retreats, and then the other thing that was really funny about this is years ago, I was the name of my company is 46 and 2 Wealth Partners. And I got the idea initially from a song from a band called Tool. Tool's been around for many years, and they're a great rock band.
I'm
And
glad you
the
brought
idea,
this up because I wanted to touch on this. So go ahead.
yeah. So 46 and 2 means a few things. So Carl Jung, who was, amazing for um, like psychology and basically knowing that there's a divine feminine and a divine masculine in every single human being and how those things play out in your ego and your life. There's part of that belief system in 46 and 2, like from the song itself, with Tool. They talk about shedding your skin and going through your shadow, which can be, a dark part of your psyche. And so there was that side of it, which I like because it's the evolution, it's the growth. It's like going through this shit to get to the glory, which I always say to people. I'm like, you have to go through the muck and the mire to be able to reach the heights that you want to reach. And so I vibed with it on that point. Then the scientific standpoint was 46 and 2 is the next step, supposedly, in human evolution. Now, whether that'll happen or not in our lifetime, I don't know. But essentially what happens, and there's a huge science behind this, based on the amount of chromosomes and DNA that we have in our body, like it was, I think it's 44 and 2. The next step in evolution will be 46 and 2, where a couple things will happen. From a consciousness standpoint, we'll all be a lot more interconnected and be able to operate better as human beings. But you'll even be able to control even every single cell in your body, like with your mind. And so like, there's so much like science and kind of like woo woo that goes into this. And I was like, I just thought about my business and how that pertained to evolving. And so for me, always being evolving, always growing, always enjoying the process, like don't miss the ride kind of thing. But evolving with my clients, evolving with my business partners, evolving with my family and my relationships. And it just made sense to name the company 46 and 2 Well Partners. And the motto and the mission is evolve together. And that's kind of, it all ties back to, and it's interesting how it's playing out now with the evolution of these plant medicines. And like all these things are interrelated, which is incredible. So.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that you brought up that eventually we'll get to a point where we can really control every cell of our bodies with our minds. I'm actually reading a book right now called E Squared. And I don't remember. Hold on.
Sure.
Okay, it's by Pam Grout, and it's 9 do-it-yourself energy experiments that prove your thoughts create your reality. And I totally am 100% on board and know and believe with everything that I have that that is 100% true, that we literally can create anything that we want with our minds. And I love that you brought that up, and that that really is one of the reasons that you named your business 46 and 2. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, no, so I'm interested to find out, have you implemented any of these 9 steps, and like what have been a couple you've tried to work on?
I actually just started reading the book like 2 days ago, so I'm not there yet. But
Let me know how it goes.
But the whole reason I got the book was because I know that and I know those things, but I need to work on proving it to myself, because in my conscious mind I know it, but my subconscious still is not there yet. So I'm working on that part.
Right. And here's a thing that goes back to when you talked about having hypnotherapy done and NLP, neuro linguistic programming. There's a great guy out there. He's a chiropractor by trade, but he's really big into this field. His name's Dr. Joe Dispenza.
I love that guy.
Yeah, he's all over Aubrey's podcast. So for you to check it out, for your listeners to check it out, he's all over Joe Rogan. Like he's in that, like all these people kind of run together, which is really cool. But
don't you worry, we're going to be running with them soon.
I love it. Yeah. And I was actually hanging out with Aubrey and Kyle and some of those guys from what I was talking about in December, which was really cool. But so, with Dr. Joe Dispenza, he has a whole way to shift the subconscious mind. And he's all about the programming, the things that you put into your mind, and specifically getting into different brainwave patterns, alpha, beta, delta, theta, and gamma. And they're all states of suggestibility. And so when you think about like before you go into bed and you're starting to drift off a little bit, if you're always watching death, murder, mayhem, crazy like reality TV stuff, you're programming your mind to bring that stuff into your life, which is crazy. And it's true. And I think about this, and it goes back because like I've been learning about this for some time now. And this is how hypnotherapy works. They get you into different states, and they can help you like break addictions. And like, I know someone who's been on my podcast. Her name is Missy Mostrom. She runs a couple amazing gyms here in Atlanta, Georgia. And she was a two pack a day smoking cigarettes for like 10, 15 years. She went in with a full pack to a hypnotherapy session. One session she came out, she never smoked a cigarette again.
Oh, wow.
So it's legit. It's just, obviously there's people that are going to think it's bullshit or it doesn't work, but it definitely does work. And so with Dr. Joe Dispenza, he teaches you through like meditative practices and then through his NLP and subconscious training, how to basically live your optimized life, whatever your best life is, so that you can use your mind, like you talked about, to call things into reality that you want for yourself.
Wow, that's so cool. I love that so much. So you got to hang out with these guys. What were y'all doing?
Yeah, so I was a part of a mastermind last year called Fit for Service. Fit for Service, Aubrey Marcus puts it on, and he's got different coaches and mentors that'll come for different parts of the year. So the year was broken up into 4 quarters. It was fit for service. To be fit for service, he believes that you have to be physically fit before anything else. Because if you're not physically fit, you can't do the work to be spiritually fit or emotionally fit or whatever else it is. And so by the time I got into the group, I was in Q4 of last year, and it was the spiritual quarter. And for me, that was huge. I'm on a huge spiritual journey for myself, and it fit perfectly. And so this group was a closed group of about 100 people from around the world. And it was like-minded people that wanted to grow and learn and just be better human beings and be better to each other and do it through this learning. And so, there was an Instagram group that we had, weekly homework check-ins, group readings that we were reading together. And then it came together on a summit over in Malibu, California, where we had a 3-day get together on all these practices. And it was really cool, swimming in the ocean together, like freezing it was crazy. And like all these different practices we're working on. And like, just like the level of, I'll tell you this, it sounds really silly, but I came back, like one of my goals was to be a better hugger. Like, cause like, I just feel like in passing, like people just don't really like take the time to really like physically like connect, cause they feel like it's taboo or they don't know how to do it. And I probably gave over 100 hugs while I was there in the 3 days, because that's how your form of communication was. There was no handshaking. It was just like hugging people. Like it was like a reflection of yourself, like loving other people. And so there's so
I
much about,
love that.
yeah, it was really cool. Like there was different events, different stations, so to speak. We learned about relationships. We learned about divinity. We learned about how to love, like all these cool things, and bring this back into our daily lives so that the name of the mastermind is called Fit for Service. And so that we could be fit for service in our relationships, in our health and wellness, in our businesses, in our spirituality. So, yeah.
Wow, that is so cool. I would sign up in a heartbeat for something like that. That
You
sounds
should. They're
so
doing
incredible.
Fit for Service too. Do it. Yeah, and they're big into the plant medicine community too. So like you can really delve into a lot there.
Wow, that's so cool. Okay, this was incredible, and I just got so much crazy information from you that I know other people are going to really enjoy it and love it too. So, real quick, let's do a rapid fire. What is a book, article, person, or talk that's changed your life?
Oh my goodness, there's so many,
I know.
and it's rapid fire. I feel pressure. I'm going to lean back to the two things. The one was Start With Why, Simon Sinek, his 18-minute video on YouTube. It's one of the most viewed videos, and it's just really the psyche of how people think and operate. And there's so much that we feel that we can't express, but understanding how to do that, I think Start With Why was really big for me on a lot of levels. And then over the years, Memento Mori, which is the Stoic philosophy that I talked about, those two learnings over the last few years have really changed who I am as a person.
I love it. That's so cool. And actually, I've never watched Simon Sinek's YouTube video, so I'm going to do
Oh
that
my
promptly as
goodness.
soon as we're done recording.
It's amazing. It's so worth it. Like it's like one of the coolest, awesome. Like, let me know what you think. We'll talk about it.
Okay, I will. I will. What's your favorite Friday night at home?
Oh goodness. It really depends on what's going on, because a lot of times we opt to do things outside. So a favorite Friday night could be, well, let me give you your answer first. So cooking and family time, spending time around the table, I love to cook. I grew up Italian. I still am Italian, but I grew up with Italian influence, and being able to cook and being able to do those things. Like I enjoy community and love through the service of like cooking and like feeding people and like community.
Same.
So that's a big thing. Yeah. And then the other thing would be getting out, because we are an active family. We got young kids. We have boys. They have tons of energy. I have tons of energy. I don't drink coffee, but I'm always on a 10. Like I'm ready to go. Living with audacity, like always. Right. And so, we've been big into the trampoline jumpy places recently, like where the kids can
Oh,
run around. I
fun.
can run around, practice Ninja Warrior stuff, which is really cool. So anything that we could do to get out and be a unit and have fun and be healthy together, or community, eating. And there's always music on. Like we love music. My sons, especially Grayson, who's a little bit older, he has the most amazing catalog. His favorite band, I don't know how, because I'm not a huge fan of these people, but Imagine Dragons. He loves Imagine
Yep.
Dragons songs. But he can
Yep.
sing Rod Stewart. He can sing the Beatles. He can sing Tool. He sings
That's so
Ghost, which is
cute.
like a metal band. Which is definitely taboo. Like my wife's like, he shouldn't be learning those devil songs. I'm like, listen, he loves everything.
He's
So
got to be well rounded.
oh my goodness, yeah, we're very lucky. But yeah, those are like the main favorite things to choose for sure.
So hilarious. I feel like our families are very similar, and I hope that one day you and I get to meet and our spouses get to meet as well, because I just think that we would all have so much fun hanging out with each other and have so much to talk about. So, man, this is so cool. Tell me about what your dream job was as a kid.
So the first thing I wanted to do, if I like remembering, was either be a doctor or be an NBA basketball player.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
that.
Doctor was more pragmatic. So that's why I kind of was like, all right, well, if I don't make being an NBA player, I could be a doctor. I went down
That's
the
funny.
medical path for a while. I actually chose, they were in my high school, instead of vocations, they had like travel and tourism. They had business, which is strange. I didn't go to business, but I always probably should have. But then they had health professions pathway. And so some of my classes were catered around health professions. And so I actually wanted to be in the medical profession. But it just turned out that
What
I
would
was a
you have
better
been?
businessman.
What kind of
So
doctor?
oh goodness, I don't know. I don't have an answer because it stopped a while back. Doctor was just like a loose term to help
Yeah.
people and to have like a prestige or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't have like a certain thing. It didn't go that far. I was still a kid, like kind of when I decided not to want to be a doctor. So
Have you ever noticed that when you talk to people about what they want to do with their lives, their first thing is always, I want to help people. And you're like,
yeah,
yeah, exactly. That's your whole purpose on this planet. Let's
yep.
figure out, at least for me, I always try to say, okay, but let's figure out how your unique gifts and talents can really help you help people in the way that makes you the happiest. So I think that's always the thing, right? Is people want to help people, but they just got to find the right way.
There's an innate there's all different types of love, and then most people have like filial love for people, which is a Greek terminology to say that you have like brotherly or sisterly love for people. And I think because we're born in like our number one, we're our species in our DNA, we're born to survive in a sense. So I think that having that survival mechanism, you do want to look out for the survival of others in a sense, and that could play out like wanting to help people, right? And that could stem all the way back to that piece, and it could be societal, it could be different. But yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of people that have a need or a calling, and then it's a matter of being able to deliver. I think anything in business, anything in life, the knowledge is great. It's fun to learn. It's fun to experience that stuff. But like, how do you apply it and how do you continually execute is kind of going to be how you do life.
Right. And I think too that if we want to help people, obviously we're helping people and taking care of them and all of that, but then it also makes us feel needed and wanted and cared for, and
Yeah.
it brings all of that stuff out in us. So I think that's just like you said, our innate quality that we're just born with.
Yep.
Okay, there have been so many incredible synchronicities in this conversation. I haven't even gotten to point them all out, but tell us, what is your best advice to help our listeners live with audacity?
Self-awareness and gratitude. So really being honest, self-awareness is honesty, being bluntly honest with yourself, looking in the mirror and telling yourself or feeling, not telling, but feeling what's right for you, what's not right for you. What do you feel like is your purpose in this life? How you want to show up in this life? So it starts with that self-awareness, you know, and being able to be honest about it. Sometimes those conversations, you know, the people that feel like they have your best interest at heart, there's a lot of like conversation about, you know, people that want to start a business and their husband and wife may not support them, or the parents might not support them or whatever, but you really got to like believe in your truth. And if you're not living your truth, you're going to be miserable, and it's going to eke
Amen.
out in your life. And so it starts with the self-awareness and the understanding of who you are. And then the gratitude has to come pretty closely to that. It's like, okay, we're alive. We can breathe, we can move. Like, what are we going to do with our day? And not every day is going to be great. Not every day is going to be a win. Not every day is going to be perfect, but you can still be grateful on a crappy day, because you can and that's how you get out of being in a bad mood. That's how you get out of being depressed, is the things that you're grateful for. So even if you have nothing else to be grateful for in your day, if you woke up and you're alive, that's a friggin' start, right? And then
Yep.
from there, you can build and stack gratitude to where you can become unstoppable, limitless, right? And so I think those two things are foundations for me. Things I'm always working on, things I'll never be perfect at, but it's the journey for me. It's the ride, it's the experience. And so self-awareness and gratitude are huge.
Love that. Okay, tell us, where can people find you to get more information about what you do and who you are and all the things?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Number one, I want to say, you know, to your audience, to your listeners, to you so much. There is a lot more conversation to have, and I'm excited to have you on my podcast, and we can share your journey as well, because normally I'm the one listening like you've been doing. So thanks so much. But you know, for me, it's the Jesse T Show is the podcast. So it's the Jesse, Jesse, and then the word T, which is like a nickname for our family, Tee. So the Jesse T Show is the podcast. You can pull it up on YouTube or anywhere podcasts can be found. And then also on Instagram, it's at Jesse_T, because Jesse T was taken. And I don't want to do the real Jesse T, because that's just kind of cheesy. So hopefully no one has real in front of their name. If I just call them out, I apologize. But at Jesse_T, because I see it a lot. And then, you know, same thing for Facebook and Instagram. It's Jesse T everywhere else, Jesse Tee. And the website for the business is 46, the numbers, the word and the number 2. That's 46 and 2 Wealth Partners with an S. I made it really complicated on purpose. You had to listen and pay attention. So 46 and 2 wealthpartners.com is how you can find my business. So, and then Alana's
Fantastic.
Angels is on Facebook. Yeah. So there's a lot. So sorry, the Alana's Angels at Alana's, ALANAS, Alana's Angels, at Alana's Angels on Facebook is how you find that. So if we can help you, serve you in any capacity, grow with you, learn with you, love with you, like that's the goal. So
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. I will link all of these links in the show notes, of course, but thank you so much for being here. It was so much fun. I always have such a good time talking to you. And man, I just feel like we could talk for hours.
yeah, we definitely can. We already have. I'm excited to continue the conversation and build our relationship and see where the road takes us. So thank you so much again, and I look forward to the next one.
Hey, y'all, I had to jump in here real quick because I need a favor. If you are loving the Live with Audacity podcast, I need you to do me a big solid favor and share it with your friends, share it on social media, and go to the Apple iTunes link and click subscribe, rate it, review it. I need to know your feedback, and I want to keep putting this out for you, so I really need your help to get the message out. Thank you so, so much for your loyalty and your super kind and sweet words. They mean so terribly much to me.